Good evening and welcome back to our continuation of the High Queen Khalida campaign here in Total War Warhammer 3. I've started us on turn 3 instead of turn 2 because on turn 2 all I did was march in a straight line towards Rosetta, stop just inside of our territory, and finished recruiting units. However, I have saved the skill point here to put into the Restless Dead. We talked about this a little bit last time. The Restless Dead is going to heal us on every spell cast that we perform. It's going to be map-wide healing, and it's going to be a big part of how we sustain through some of these battles against tougher opponents. So, with that being done, we're going to start today's episode with the battle for Rosetta. Looks like it should be a fairly straightforward victory, so we're going to go ahead and hit the auto-resolve button on this one. We're going to take some minor losses, and we are going to conquer this territory and occupy it, bringing us one step closer to the unification of our province. Taking a look, we see that Khalida has leveled up off of that, and we are, I think, going to put another point into the red tree here. We're going to go for the arrows of Asaph and start boosting our ammunition capacity with a mind towards moving towards missile strength as we go further down the ranks, because we are going to be using a lot of missile weaponry in this campaign. Now, we have a small choice here. We can go round to the east along the coast, past Libaris, or we can continue to take the fight to the vampires by moving up through Marak and unify our province after taking control of this mountain pass. And I think that is what we're going to do. I'm not too worried about the orcs right now. So we're going to take Marak and walk around to Lamia, because it is the faster route to get there. With that in mind, we have nothing else to do on this turn, so we are going to end turn number 3. Alright, it looks like the Silver Host have moved in to Marak here, and we are going to go and challenge them. What have they got in this army? We don't know. It's a full stack, though. So I think that we shall just march ourselves a little bit closer, park just outside of the city, and see what they choose to do. And we have our answer. They have sallied forth from the settlement to meet us in glorious combat. And I see no reason to deny them. Alright, let's have a quick look at the terrain which we have been given. And I think I can fairly confidently say that I want to occupy this area over on the left here, because that will allow us to grant our missile units a greater degree of protection, as well as our catapults and our artillery, and it will put us further away from the enemy reinforcements. So even if they choose to join up, we're not at quite as much risk of being overrun. So let's get everyone over here, including the High Queen herself. And then let's think about how we want to arrange this. There wasn't a huge amount of large in the enemy army, so I think I'm going to intersperse my swords with the spearmen to form a sort of blocky front line. And we'll put them on control group 1. And these guys will be in charge of moving up to occupy the initial space. Then we'll have these reinforcement groups to plug the front line on group 2. And we'll have the archers on group 3. We don't have a huge amount of magic, but we also don't have a huge amount of spells, so I think I'm okay with that. I'm going to move my artillery forward just a little bit, because the army is going to go forward, right? Like, I don't want them to have to move too far in order to keep up with the rest of the forces. And this is one of those battles where the Restless Dead is going to come in really handy, as well as our passive healing from the Realm of Souls stack across the top. All of these things should greatly help our ability to sustain through the vampires. And that's not something you hear very often. Vampires are a very sustainy faction, but this early on with a Vampire Lord, I like our chances. So, we're going to start the battle, and we're going to start moving ourselves into position. The enemy, as you can tell, has started themselves in such a way that they are not going to end up running into us relatively quickly. So we're going to form up our 2 blocks. And we're going to put our missile cavalry over here so they can start shooting. And now that we've formed up our 2 blocks, let's get the archers behind them. I'm going to move the Ushabti great bows. And I'm going to pivot the artillery a little bit. Where are they? There they are. I'm going to pivot them a little bit to face this way. They're sort of in the middle of the archers right now, actually. So given that they're out of range, I think I'm going to pull them back a little bit with the pivot. They should have plenty of time. The enemy isn't going to be in range for a little while now. We've got the Lich Priest ready to do battle. And we have Khalida nearby as well. It's a fairly static formation, but we have a couple of advantages here. The first being that the vampire counts are not a great faction for ranged. They've got next to no way to force us out of our entrenched position. We'll just clean up the UI a little bit, make it look a little bit more cinematic. And they attacked us, remember, so once their reinforcements come, the initiative is on them. But I'm going to try and take advantage of our superior mobility and get some pot shots in at their lord. If the bats respond, we'll fly away. But I'm hoping here just to get a few little bits of damage down on the enemy general. The reinforcements have arrived, so obviously they are beginning to move. Let's see how many of the arrows hit him. Not too many, but enough. We're just going to stay here and keep firing these pot shots for a little while. And when the time comes, we will retreat back to our line. And it looks like that time is fast approaching with the dire wolves that are currently bucking it towards the cavalry. So we're going to move that undead booty and get out of here as fast as possible. Bit of an epic chase here, but the one disadvantage the dire wolves have is that the Nehekara horsemen... Oh, no, these are the skeleton warrior. Skeleton archer horsemen. They don't give any shits about moving and shooting. They can do that. So the dire wolves themselves are going to begin to take quite considerable damage on the way in here. And now that they've begun crumbling, we're going to have a word with whoever shot that catapult that did damage to our own units. Those incompetent, bumbling amateurs. Clearly death didn't do them any favours. Alright, we're going to use the horsemen here to screen this. We're going to put the catapult back on fire at will, because I believe they are just about to cross in to our range. And then we're going to have a quick look-see and see what the catapults can achieve. Okay, it looks like they went for a group I wasn't looking at. That kind of surprises me. I'm going to get them to shoot into this clump here, I think. And I'm also going to pull a unit of Nehekara warriors to the back. along with a unit of spearmen, and the horsemen to deal with that force that we can see is kind of just walking around our flank there. The Asparti greatbows are in a good position to start shooting. And the catapults, I dare say, will probably be wreaking their fair share of havoc, especially once the lines meet. Like, when they're moving like this, sometimes the hits aren't too great, but once the lines actually clash, it becomes a lot better. Now, I am going to get the Ushabti greatbows to start focusing Count Ewald. And soon enough, we are going to see the rest of this army move into our range. I was not speeding this up in the hopes of seeing some really juicy catapult shots. Ooh, there we go. And now the archers are going to begin shooting down the bats as they attempt to make their way through. Our infantry will be more than a match for them, but because of the Restless Dead, I am going to cast this now and just offer some healing. I'm going to pop the unit cards up because I find it very difficult to play the battle without them. There's a lot of information on them. You should be paying attention to these. But we can see that that flank over there is getting absolutely hammered by the catapults. This is going to be a major pain point for the enemy very quickly. And to try and deal with that and exacerbate the problems that they're going to run into, we are going to charge with High Queen Khalida. We're also going to put the spearmen in the second rank forward here and deploy a group of spearmen across to hold the middle. We've got some Nehekara warriors here. I am not too worried about this side. We're also going to switch the catapults to firing something just a little bit further away, because right now they are doing just a tad of friendly fire. Oh, I should have got a close-up of that. That was beautiful. We're also going to start casting to heal our units with the Restless Dead every time that comes off of cooldown. But realistically, what we need right now is for Khalida to deal with Count Ewald. If that happens, then we are going to be in a really nice spot. Again, we don't care too much about skeletons. They are skeletons. They are expendable. And it looks like we can begin to move the horse archers back over here, I think. I'm not in a position right now where I'm worried about that flank. I think the Nehekara warriors and the spearman unit I spent over there should be more than enough of a match for what is left on that flank. I'm going to move the Lich Priest up here to offer some of his leadership aura. And I'm going to have Khalida keep trying her best to break this flank here. You can see that we've got a lot of catapults, we've got a lot of arrows, all of which is coming across this line right now and doing a lot of damage. I'm a little bit frustrated, really, that we haven't been able, at this moment, to do more damage to Count Ewald, because he appears to be running away from Khalida at every opportunity, which, you know, does make sense. Oh, got a nice Venom wave there. That looked pretty good. And it does clear out the way for Khalida to get back into combat with Ewald, if, you know, she would ever be bothered to take it. I'm going to move the Ushabti from shooting at Ewald, because they're not really doing a very good job of it. And I'm going to start focusing on the Crypt Ghouls that are beginning to look like they might punch through my line. Taking a quick look at the rear, we can see that they have sent a lot of skeletons over here. But the Nehekara warriors are slightly better. So we do have an infantry quality advantage. Let's get some healing down onto these at the front here, these skeleton spearmen. using an overcast. They don't stand much of a chance against... Let's refocus the catapults into the back of this blob here as well, because they're currently doing more friendly fire than not. We're getting very close to another heal from the Realm of Souls, which is quite nice. I'm enjoying the prospect of that. We are beginning to lose some of our infantry to crumbling, and there's not a huge amount we can do about that. Our front line is nowhere near as substantial as theirs. Oh, some lovely artillery hits there. In fact, I am going to try and push Khalida into the middle of this for a big venom wave. She is taking a lot of damage, but ultimately, I think it'll be worth it if we can begin to force a big crumble here. Alright, we got the tier 3 Realm of Souls, which means we can summon the Ushabti. And we're going to do that over here on the slightly more beleaguered flank, just to help them out. This means that a melee variant of our archers is going to spawn in here any second. And as it rises from the sand, these elite monstrous infantry are going to start cleaving into the back of these zombies and skeleton warriors, which is exactly what we want. It's going to turn that fight very swiftly in our favour. Now, it's important to remember that we can recruit 4 skeleton units a turn at no cost, right? So, even though we are losing a decent chunk of infantry here, it is nothing that is not easily replaceable. And, you know, that's the important thing. We will have a very easy time taking these losses and getting past them. There we go. Looks like we're getting towards the mass crumble. You can see that the Realm of Souls is beginning to stack up again. I think that was a friendly fire shot from the catapult for 40 deaths. We're going to send the archers here because I think we can break the front without them now. We're going to send them and put those into the back to assist our other team, because this front is going to crumble. In fact, I think the whole army's gone. Yeah, the whole of the first one at least is going. The Lord is crumbling as well. And with this nice defensive position up here on the hill, we were able to win a relatively straightforward victory. It was a bit of a grind. It was a bit of a, I'm going to hit you, you're going to hit me. But that's what 2 armies with a lot of healing, such as the Tomb Kings and the Vampire Counts, often amount to. It amounts to who can get the most DPS in while the infantry forces are sort of slowly grinding their way through one another with healing. Still, we did manage to take out a force about double our size. We lost a couple of skeleton warriors to do it. And we are going to take the Bind Souls, because we want to move on and take Lamia very quickly next turn. This garrison we've already beaten in battle. It's healed up a little bit, but we're just going to knock it out here. And we got the Helm of Discord. That is a very nice helmet. We might give that to our general. Not general, our Lich Priest. There we go. So, at the end of every battle, when we level up, we're going to have a quick look at the skill trees. And I think we're going to put 1 point into Soul Reaper, another point into Arrows of Asaph, and 1 point into Sun-Scorched Bones to make our front line just a little bit more impressive. Now, what we lost was 2 units of Swordsmen, and although we can get higher tier troops shortly, I'm just going to replace like for like. And because I can, to sort of make the replenishment on those units that weren't going to finish it, we're also going to just quickly merge and then put another spear unit together Oh, and of course I should level up our Lich Priest. So what have we got? We have Naru's Incantation of Protection, plus 40% physical resistance. I like the sound of that. Petra's Incantation of Righteous Smiting. That will be very good. And that's a minus speed and a damage per second. You know what? I think we'll just take one of every one of those. I think they could all be very useful to us. I don't see one that I have a particular leaning towards at this moment. Khalida has gotten herself a Vampire Slayer, plus leadership against vampire counts. Very nice. And we're just going to quickly have a look at the details page. It looks like for now it's given the helmet to High Queen Khalida, and I don't mind that at all, so we're going to leave that how it is. We can upgrade, due to growth, the main settlement building of Rosetta. Or Resetra, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to end our turn and begin the march on Lamia. Having replenished, Khalida's forces stand outside the walls of Lamia. I think it's about time that we claimed our first province and got this battle off, or this campaign off, to a good start with this battle here. That's quite a scary army. But I think that we have the ability to win it. So we are going to go in here and we are going to mess some vampires up. Alright, we find ourselves arrayed before the walls of Lamia. And now we are going to try and find a nice position to assault where the towers aren't going to do too much damage as we break down the gates. And I think, mercifully for us, that that's a relatively easy thing to find. If we just go down the walls here, we can get the catapults to take out these two towers and array our forces in such a manner that they will likely be successful in gaining access to the city with minimal effort. Which is what we're going to do. But we're actually... we're going to put the Nehekara warriors on this side because we don't want them shooting at, and they will just be in range to be shot at. We're going to put the archers just here, keep the other archers behind our forces, and have the spearmen ready to go in through the gates when those are captured and or destroyed. It's one of those situations where there aren't a lot of very good options. There's only so much we can do to avoid taking massive casualties to the towers. But I'm not too worried about some skeletons taking that. We are going to channel the magic. We're going to see if we can get ourselves some slightly more favourable winds of magic. So we're going to gamble. Gamble. And our gamble has succeeded and given us exactly one extra point of magic. Yes, dramatic increase, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Yes, a dramatic increase. Alright. So, let us begin. We're immediately going to start by rushing our warriors up onto the walls to claim them. Looks like the enemy actually didn't start, and of course as I say that they resume, didn't start with the towers particularly garrisoned, but they've now moved up. We are going to target, however, I think we'll just accept the losses to the skeletons and target down the gates. I don't think there's too much to worry about that. We're going to march forward here with the infantry and the archers. Oh, did I forget to send you onto the walls? My apologies, my dear gentlemen of the undead legions. Again, we're going to have our Ishapti just try and find some high priority targets to shoot in a little bit. And we're going to move Khalida and Hatmas up toward the front line. And I think if we have the range for it, we're going to test out some of Hatmas's new spells. We can see now that the ranged barrage has begun, which is good, because that is the strength of our army, and the more we can get that up and at 'em, the better this circumstance is going to be for yours truly. Oh, a direct hit on the gate there, very nice. Are the archers yet in range? Not quite. Okay, we'll position them slightly further forward. We'll get the skeletons to come in here as well. Get the Ushabti moving forward a little bit. And High Queen Khalida, of course, will be ready to enter the fray. The warrior queen of Lybaras is not scared of these undead fools. Behind the walls, we can see that they are attempting to rally into position as the catapult shots and arrows continue to fall upon their defenders. On the walls, we can see that the beginning of the fighting in hand-to-hand has begun, with the Nehekara warriors being swamped by carrion and bats, as well as by crypt ghouls. A difficult fight for them, to be sure, so we are going to offer them some magical assistance. We are going to put a direct damage spell down for them. Oh, we're out of range for it. Never mind, we'll do that in a little bit. Alright, the spearmen are now going to begin gaining access to the city. It's going to be an absolute cluster trying to get through here. And we're also going to order the catapults to stop shooting at the walls, because they're just going to do damage to our forces. And we don't want that. No, spearmen, come on, go through the gate, please. This is one of the biggest problems with the AI in this game, is that it can be a bit derpy around walls. But we do need to cast something on someone here, because otherwise we are going to start losing forces on the walls. We need that Restless Dead proc to come in for us here as often as possible to keep our forces sustained and in the fight. So we're going to triple cast on this fight over here. And that'll grant us some army-wide healing. It looks like we are beginning to spill forward into the courtyard behind the gates. And that's where we want High Queen Khalida, really. We want her in that fight. We want these archers firing into that blob as much as they are able. It doesn't look like they can... Oh, they can get line of sight. Perfect, that's what we want. The sooner we can break this, the better. And once Khalida can wade her way through her own forces to the front line, we are going to see some results begin to come in for us thick and fast. There she is. She's making the front line now. We've got the archers leaving the combat on the walls to the Nehekara swordsmen. We're going to send the Nehekara swordsmen down there as well. And there isn't much we can do about the fight on the wall on that side right now. But they are all funneling into High Queen Khalida, so I think we can do our usual zoom in, watch her fighting these crypt horrors, and then summon... Oh, no, watch High Queen Khalida go fly. And then summon the Venom Wave. Oh, is that on Shift 2 now because of Helm of Discord? It is! We got an extra item, so it changed my hotkeys. Never mind, that kind of ruined my dramatic intro. There's this big battle going on for the gate here, and we are going to have some reinforcements for it in a moment. You can see that everything is kind of getting clumped up right now in and around the fort, because we can't quite gain access to the city. But that'll change nice and fast, because we are about to summon the Ushabti reinforcements behind the enemy lines, along with the tier 3 healing. And that's going to make a nice big difference for us there. We're going to pull the archers away from the gate right now, because I think all that's happening is they're bogging up the other units as they try to gain access to the city. We have lost our forces on the walls over here, but I think they were just normal skeletons, so quite frankly, who cares? I don't think we can get the shots off from here, but we'll see. Anything would be good right now to give some big leadership penalties, which is something that the Screaming Skull Catapult does very well. If we bring up the Advanced Unit tab here, disintegrating it does damage per second. It also causes fear. I'm not sure if that's when they're in range or when the artillery hits. It would make sense for it to be when the artillery hits, but, you know, not everything in life makes sense, as we so readily and so often find out. Alright, how is High Queen Khalida doing in the middle of this blob? It looks like she still has her work cut out for her, if I can even find her in and amongst the carnage. Which, right now, I am struggling to do. You know what? There's a very easy way to find Khalida. Fed him wave! Did it not go off? Oh, I hit the wrong combination. There we go, she's in the middle. Oh, lovely. Good job, Khalida. You keep making this fight more and more untenable for the enemy, and we'll have this one in no time. So I think what we're going to do right now is we're just going to sit and we're going to watch as this ungodly grind fest between the forces of the undead continues for just a moment longer. Before I hop out here, we're going to pop Helm of Discord, because that's going to help us get some disintegration down. And then we're going to order our archers that can get onto the walls, because if the enemy aren't on the walls, then that is our opportunity to gain the upper hand in this fight, remember? We are at the point now where the battle is swinging pretty dramatically into our favour. But I'm actually going to retarget our artillery to take out some of the enemy towers. We haven't been able to get on top of their lord, which is unfortunate. But this, the Helm of Discord, is going to make a very big difference here. Wait, is Khalida crumbling? That's not good. Alright, we're going to try and pull Khalida out of there. But she has been surrounded. So we are going to have to do our absolute best here to save High Queen Khalida. That is the mission. Our archers are going to begin shooting. We're pulling. Okay, it looks like her morale is stabilizing, which is good. But we're going to have to be quite careful, because she's in and amongst a lot of high damage units right now. This was not a particularly well executed siege from me, I must admit. But that's alright, we'll make do. As long as Khalida doesn't go down, I think we'll be fine, but she's currently in and amongst a lot of enemies. And I think she's gone. I think the crumble is going to come through for them first, which means I think that they might actually win this battle. My own foolhardiness with my High Queen may cost us here. We don't have another Ushabti summon, we just have more healing. Which is good, more healing is going to be helpful, but... You know what, let's get the Ushabti into melee now. I'm just hoping that we're able to break them before we die. We do still have a Lord in the fray, but this leadership debuff with our Lord going down is bad doo-doo. It's not good news. We're getting a lot of stuff crumbling right now, and although our damage output is still very good and we do still have the poison, this is certainly not favourable for us. The thing that we were really missing in this battle, because we had 6 magic and it didn't regen, was just the healing. we were not able to get the healing off, and I wasn't able to target down the Necromancer on time to stop him doing a lot of healing for them. So we've lost Khalida very early on. The good news is, of course, that our Legendary Lord will respawn, and it looks like we'll probably take this battle anyway because of the amount of damage that was done and the poison attacks that are coming in from our units, making a big difference here. But we are at the point right now where we just essentially got ourselves stuck in this gate fight. I should have sent more spearmen over the wall so we could get more flanking. But that's something we're going to have to learn. I was so confident that Khalida would be able to break their leadership with the Venom Wave that I didn't really play this fight out well or properly at all. But that's lessons to learn for another time. And certainly add some high drama to this battle. That I was foolish enough to get Khalida surrounded and taken out. You can see that some of the crumbles are beginning to come through now on the units by the gate. The Black Knights are going to go down. They are going to disappear. The Crypt Horrors are going as well. And with them going down and our Lich Priest buffing our morale, we haven't lost all of our morale. It wasn't quite that disastrous. But it also wasn't very good for us. So we are just going to have to watch this slow and steady grind of a battle. But we're going to watch it in ×2 speed because this is going to take some time. I'm going to order a movement through to try and push more units. And then once the more units are there, I'm going to click on the enemy and hopefully they'll spread out and fight a bit better. Use some of the mass there. You can see that the Horse Archers are beginning to come through the gates here. Let's see if we can pull the Horse Archers all the way through with spam clicking, actually. We'll return this to normal speed, see if we can spam click our way through with the Horsemen. I think it's the Crypt Horrors. If the Crypt Horrors break, then the mass that's blocking us from getting through will be gone. But right now, the Crypt Horrors are just, they're too much of a unit. Alright, we have some archers still on the walls. This is a battle that is definitely not going very well for us. I was so confident. But as long as we don't lose the Screaming Skull Catapult. What if we send some units up onto the walls here rather than just throwing them into the meat grinder? Do what I should have done earlier. Better late than never. And it looks like we are beginning to win this. I don't know. Can I get an arc? I don't think I can get an arc into that. So no, we're just gonna leave that for now. Once the Crypt Horrors go. And they are now crumbling, thanks, Cetra. We will be able to push through here, because I think at that point the binding is going to go on a lot of other things. We've taken the gate, that's going to give us some momentum, some extra vigor per second. It's going to start healing up our units. Just a little bit. The Grave Guard is also beginning to go now. And I am gonna... Oh, accidentally paused the game, apparently. I'm gonna start flooding cavalry into the city. And now that that's happened, actually, it looks like they're just gonna crumble away. Oh, good lord. Well, I made a right pig's breakfast of that team. I really did. I made a right pig's breakfast of that. But... we have taken our city, our province, capital, and, wow! Okay, it did say it would be a defeat, and we did win. Unfortunately, I lost High Queen Khalida, which is never a good thing. Never a good thing. So what we're going to do is we'll pick up, and we shall occupy our settlement capital. It's telling us that all of these are wounded. We'll We'll go for the Tomb King that is prepared with extra missile and extra missile strength, because we are a largely ranged army. And, you know, this does give us the opportunity to recruit some better front line and more archers into our army. However, in order to do the best of that, we are going to quickly merge some of these spearmen together. And we'll grab an extra skeleton archer there. Now, in Lamia, we can afford to get ourselves the next tier of settlement, and we can take a look into some of these higher tier buildings a little bit later. However, most of these we don't need to worry about too much, because these can be built in tier 3 settlements like these. So it'll be a matter of anything that requires tier 4 and above. For example, the cavalry stables, which we are going to put underway now. Well, that's going to be it for today's episode. We lost Khalida on turn 7 because I was a muppet. And yeah, we'll see how the Tomb Kings recover from this minor setback in a couple of turns when our army has finished rebuilding and is replenished. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.